Chosen one, lock your attention on what I am about to say right now. That restless feeling you have been carrying, the one that shows up the moment everything goes quiet. Stop running from it. The enemy is working overtime right now for one reason and one reason only. He can see what is standing directly behind the door you are about to walk through. It all ends here. The waiting, the confusion, the back and forth between faith and doubt. But you need to hear this clearly. It is not ending because of coincidence. It is ending because of what you have already done. Think back to that moment this week when you almost turned back, when the silence felt like abandonment and the delay felt like rejection. You did not know it then, but that moment of choosing to stay, of choosing not to react, not to retaliate, not to quit, that was not weakness. That was the final move. That was the act that set every promise in motion. You did not miss your window. You opened it. You did not find this recording by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. God did. This is a divine appointment that was written before the foundations of the earth were laid. You are not stumbling through a season. You are standing at the final threshold before everything shifts. Do not click away. Your future self is on the other side of what I am about to say. If you leave before the end, you leave before the verdict is read. In the next few minutes, I am going to hand you the exact decree that dismantles the enemy's final assignment against your life. I am going to walk you through the precise moment you unknowingly activated your breakthrough, even when it looked like failure. And at the end, I am going to give you a declaration so specific that it seals this season shut and locks the enemy out permanently. Stay until the last word. I know what the last 72 hours have felt like. The atmosphere has not just been quiet, it has been thick. Like standing inside a pressure you cannot name and cannot explain. Like something enormous is pressing against the walls of your life from the outside. Maybe you were lying in bed this week, completely still, staring at the ceiling at 3 o'clock in the morning, mind racing through every decision you have made in the last several months, asking yourself where you went wrong. Or maybe you were in the middle of a conversation, maybe with someone you love, maybe with someone who tested every boundary you have, and something in you just went quiet. You pulled back. You chose silence over war. You walked away from a fight that a previous version of you would have entered without hesitation. And now you are wondering if that restraint was wisdom or retreat, if that silence was strength or surrender. You feel suspended, like you are holding your breath between two chapters, between the life you lived and the life you were promised, and you cannot tell if you are on the verge of something extraordinary or the edge of something that is about to collapse. And in that suspension, in that space where clarity should be but is not, the enemy has been whispering a very specific lie directly into your mind. Listen to your own thoughts for a moment. He is telling you that the reason everything feels stalled is because of something you did not do right. He is replaying a moment. Maybe the moment you went quiet, maybe the moment you pulled back, maybe the moment you chose not to fight. And he is holding it up like evidence. He is telling you that because of that moment, you have disqualified yourself, that the blessing is delayed, that the cycle is starting over, that you are back at the beginning. But I need you to hear what the scripture actually says about this moment. Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." All things, not the comfortable things, not the clear things. All things, including the moment you walked away, including the silence, including the decision you are questioning right now. The enemy wants you to read that moment as failure, because if you understand what it actually was, his entire strategy collapses. That moment was not the clock resetting. That moment was the clock stopping. You are not being taken back through the wilderness again. You are in the final hour of a crossing that is already complete in the spirit. You are not in a cycle. You are in a conclusion. The heaviness you feel right now is not the weight of punishment. It is the weight of finality. It is the specific pressure that comes when something that has had authority over your life for years is being pulled from its roots. You know what it feels like when a storm is ending, not when it is building, but when it is finishing. The air gets heavier right before it clears. That is where you are. You think that moment of silence was weakness. You think walking away was losing ground. Let me reframe your reality right now. That was not a mistake. That was the final step. That was the exact move heaven was waiting for. The version of you that would have reacted, that would have re-entered that battle, would have extended the warfare. But you did not. And in that restraint, you signed the enemy's eviction notice with your own peace. You have no idea what is coming next, but it is coming, and it is already yours. Some messages don't just inform, they activate. If something stirred deep in your spirit just now, you may be ready to receive the Chosen One's blueprint. This sacred guide reveals the 8 divine patterns behind your calling, your suffering, and your destiny. It also comes with the full audiobook, so you can absorb it during prayer, rest, or quiet moments with God. And for those called to speak His truth, you'll also receive Activating Your Prophet Mantle, a powerful bonus ebook for those carrying a prophetic assignment. The link is in the first pinned comment, but only for a limited time. Now let's go deeper into what's really happening. Most people who feel stuck aren't stuck because of a lack of effort. They are stuck because of an invisible agreement they have made, a silent pact with a version of themselves that was shaped by the scars of pain, not the blueprint of purpose. Somewhere along the winding path of life, the sheer weight of what you have endured, the valleys you have traversed, has become the very definition of who you are. It happened so subtly, so insidiously, that you didn't even notice the shift. The sting of rejection became your nameplate. The prolonged seasons of delay became your final verdict, etched in stone. The profound silence of God during your most challenging times became the irrefutable evidence that you were utterly forgotten. But here's a truth that often remains unspoken, a revelation hidden in plain sight. You were not being forgotten. You were being forged. Like a blacksmith hammering raw metal, God was shaping you, preparing you for a purpose that transcends your current circumstances. Think of Elijah, the mighty prophet brought to his knees under a solitary juniper tree, utterly depleted, his spirit crying out for death. This was the same man who had fearlessly called down fire from the heavens, who had outrun the king's chariot in a display of sheer divine strength. And yet, there he was, a broken heap in the desolate wilderness, convinced his divine assignment had reached its bitter end. What was God's response? There was no reprimand, no rushed correction, no impatient sermon. Instead, an angel appeared, not with a complex strategy or a fiery sermon, but with sustenance, bread and water. Because the infinite weaver of destinies knew that the arduous journey ahead demanded a strength that Elijah in that moment did not possess. What appears to be your lowest ebb, your deepest valley right now, may very well be God tenderly nourishing you, providing the hidden reserves you'll need for the longest, most transformative distance you've ever had to travel. But here's where the revelation deepens, where the intricate tapestry of our spiritual lives reveals even more intricate threads. It's not merely that you have been worn down by the relentless winds of adversity. It's that the weariness itself has begun to speak, and you, in your vulnerability, have been listening to its pronouncements as if they carry the weight of divine authority. Weariness possesses a voice, a subtle whisper that can grow into a deafening roar. Disappointment, too, has its own insidious language, and when you have journeyed through the wilderness for an extended period, both weariness and disappointment can masquerade as profound wisdom. They murmur seductive truths. Be realistic, they counsel. You've already tried this path before, and it led nowhere, they remind you. Perhaps this calling, this dream, simply isn't meant for you, they suggest. And because these insidious whispers originate from within your own being, from the very core of your experience, you are prone to accepting them as infallible truths. But allow me to make this unequivocally clear. The loudest voice resonating within you during moments of profound exhaustion is rarely, if ever, the voice of the divine. More often than not, it is the voice of the unhealed wound, speaking in the raw, unfiltered language of the first person, recounting its own history of pain as if it were the present reality. This leads us to a profound insight that eludes the vast majority of people. You have been treating your wounds as if they were esteemed teachers, as if every scar etched upon your soul holds a valuable, indelible lesson that you are meant to internalize and carry forward. However, not every painful experience is a divine classroom designed for your character development. Some trials are not about refining who you are, but about revealing and activating what you are destined to do. Some of the very things that have shattered you were not punishments for your failures, but rather sacrifices made on your behalf, broken to pave the way for your calling. The adversary, the ancient enemy of our souls, does not expend precision warfare on ordinary individuals. He does not launch calculated assaults on those who pose no significant threat to his kingdom. The sheer intensity of the opposition you have faced, the ferocity of the storms that have raged against you, is in itself a powerful testament, a form of spiritual confirmation. And the moment this profound understanding truly settles within you, the entire landscape of your perceived reality begins to shift, like tectonic plates rearranging the very foundations of the earth. Stay with me, for what I am about to share is the very crux of the matter, the element that most individuals tend to sidestep, and paradoxically, it is the very obstacle that keeps the door to their destiny firmly shut. There exists a pervasive, almost invisible pattern that underpins every stalled destiny, every life held captive by unrealized potential. It is the deeply ingrained habit of rehearsing your history far more meticulously than you engage with your prophecy. You have replayed the events of your past, the moments of trauma, the instances of hurt, so many times that your very nervous system has come to interpret them as your current lived reality. Your physical body remains perpetually braced for the impact of blows that landed years, even decades ago. Neuroscience has a term for this: hypervigilance. But in the spiritual realm, this manifests in a deeply counterproductive way. You may find yourself fervently praying for open doors, for new opportunities, while your entire posture, your inner disposition, remains that of someone anticipating their swift and forceful slamming. You may boldly declare breakthroughs and divine advancements, while your feet remain firmly planted in the stance of mere survival, accustomed to the trenches. And God, in His infinite and sovereign wisdom, will not, indeed cannot, forcibly propel you through a door that your own unrenewed mind, your deeply ingrained historical narratives, are actively leaning against. The Apostle Paul, in his letter to the Romans, penned a transformative truth: be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Notice what he did not say. He did not stipulate that transformation would come solely through intensified prayer, nor exclusively through rigorous fasting. While these spiritual disciplines are vital, Paul directed our attention to the mind. Why? Because the mind is the sovereign gatekeeper of our reality. What you consistently focus on, what you allow to occupy the forefront of your thoughts, you unconsciously begin to manifest in your life. And if your inner narrative continues to faithfully, albeit painfully, recount an old, broken story, your life will inevitably continue to produce old, worn-out chapters, regardless of the sincerity with which you seek something new and vibrant. But here lies the inconvenient truth, the part that often feels like a bitter pill to swallow. For some of you, the struggle has become so familiar, so ingrained, that the very prospect of breakthrough, of stepping into the fullness of your divine potential, actually induces a subtle, perhaps even unconscious fear. This isn't a conscious rejection of God's blessings. You yearn for breakthrough. You have earnestly petitioned for it. You have shed oceans of tears for it. Yet, lurking beneath that fervent desire is a quiet, yet terrifying question. Who am I without this battle? What defines me if this struggle is no longer my constant companion? The very nature of the hardship has, in a strange way, provided you with an identity. The prolonged season of waiting has forged a sense of community, a shared experience with others in similar circumstances. The wound itself has become a wellspring of language, a framework for understanding and articulating your journey. And the thought of stepping into the magnificent fullness of what God has meticulously prepared for you necessitates a departure from the version of yourself that has become so intimately known, both to yourself and to those around you. This is not a minor adjustment. It is a profound death. It is the shedding of an old skin, the relinquishing of a familiar identity. And God is not asking you to feign that this process is effortless. He is asking you to make the courageous choice to embrace it, to walk through it anyway. Consider the poignant narrative of the man at the pool of Bethesda. He had languished there for 38 years, a prisoner of his condition, when Jesus, the very embodiment of divine compassion, approached him and posed the life-altering question, "Do you want to be made well?" The man's response was not a simple, immediate affirmation. Instead, he offered an extensive explanation, a detailed recounting of all the reasons why his healing had been perpetually deferred. He spoke of the others, the lack of assistance, the unyielding circumstances, and yet, in his boundless mercy, Jesus healed him. But I implore you to observe a critical detail. The man had become so profoundly identified with his ailment, so deeply entwined with his infirmity, that the question of whether he truly desired freedom was far more complex than it appeared on the surface. 38 years. This is not merely a physical limitation. It represents an entire existence meticulously constructed around an absence, a void. And God is posing that same penetrating question to you right now, the same question he asked that man at the pool. He is not asking, "Are you suffering?" For he already knows the depth of your pain. He is not inquiring, "Do you deserve healing?" For that is not the currency of grace. He is asking, with an intensity that pierces the veil of our understanding, "Do you want to be made well?" And he requires an answer that transcends mere performance, a response that emanates from the deepest, most unvarnished, and honest place within the sanctuary of your soul. And the moment this truth becomes a living reality for you, the moment the profound desire for wholeness eclipses the comfortable familiarity of your wound, that is precisely when the genuine, earth-shattering transformation begins. Because true healing is not a fleeting moment, a sudden event. It is a sustained direction. It is a series of countless, seemingly small choices, consistently made in the same unwavering direction, until one day you look back with astonishment and realize that the person you once were is no longer recognizable. You have ceased to consent to the lie, not through a single dramatic declaration, but through the quiet, ordinary moments where you deliberately chose truth, where you uttered with unwavering resolve, "No, that thought pattern does not belong in this sacred space," where you consciously decided to stop recounting the narrative of what broke you, as if the events were still unfolding in real time, where you began to speak about your future, your divine destiny, with the same unshakable conviction you once reserved for describing your deepest pain. Coming up, the hidden reversal you didn't see, the one that explains why everything that looked like loss was actually leverage. Don't move. There exists a divine principle, a fundamental law woven into the very architecture of every life divinely chosen, and it is the principle of inversion. What the adversary intends for utter destruction, God has already divinely preordained as the catalyst for unparalleled acceleration. This is not some ephemeral platitude or a comforting bumper sticker slogan. This is the very operating system of the kingdom of God. Joseph did not merely survive the indignity of the pit. The pit itself cultivated within him an extraordinary capacity for forgiveness, an innate understanding of governance, and a profound wisdom that could never have been manufactured in the sterile environment of comfort and ease. The very cruelty inflicted upon him by his envious brothers became the consecrated corridor through which he was destined to walk into his magnificent destiny. Every year spent in the pit, every year endured in Potiphar's house, under suspicion and false accusation, every solitary year confined within the cold, damp walls of prison. None of these experiences were wasted. All of it was meticulously calculated, strategically orchestrated by a God who perceives the end from the very beginning, and who, with loving precision, places his chosen ones within the very furnaces that forge the specific qualities and strengths required for their divine assignment. Therefore, that experience you have been deeply grieving, that profound loss, that soul-crushing betrayal, that seemingly nonsensical season of trial, know this: God has not been an absent observer. He has been intimately present within the very fabric of it all, wielding tools and orchestrating processes that were invisible to your human perception, industriously producing within you a unique resilience and character that simply cannot be replicated through any other means. And the precise moment you cease resisting the process, the moment you shift from struggle to surrender and begin to humbly inquire, God, what are you meticulously building within me through this crucible? The suffering itself may not instantaneously vanish, but it begins to acquire profound meaning. And it is meaning, the divine understanding of purpose within pain, that transforms mere endurance into a potent, transformative anointing. But there remains one final layer to this unfolding revelation, and it is perhaps the most challenging truth for many to fully receive and integrate. The ultimate, formidable barrier standing between you and the magnificent destiny God has so meticulously prepared is not the relentless enemy, nor is it the inescapable weight of your past, nor is it the lingering pain inflicted by those who have hurt you. It is rather your unexamined, often unacknowledged, relationship with your own intrinsic worthiness. Deep beneath the surface of your earnest prayers, your confident declarations, and your persistent seeking, there often lies a quiet, persistent belief, a subterranean conviction that perhaps individuals such as yourself are simply not destined to walk in that extraordinary kind of fullness. A belief that the miraculous stories of overwhelming breakthrough are reserved for someone else, a chosen few. A subtle yet pervasive feeling that you, in some inexplicable way, are the exception to God's unwavering faithfulness. And this deeply ingrained belief has been functioning as an invisible yet profoundly real ceiling, effectively containing you just below the magnificent abundance that heaven has already actively released for your behalf. Not because God has deliberately withheld it, oh no, but because, on some fundamental level, you have been incapable of receiving it. And you have been incapable of receiving it because you have not yet truly believed, down to the very marrow of your bones, that you are profoundly, irrevocably worth it. But this is the undeniable truth that the cross unequivocally proclaims. This is the resounding declaration that grace screams in defiance of every insidious lie that seeks to diminish your value. You were deemed worthy of the ultimate sacrifice, the life of the Son of God. This was not contingent upon anything you could do to earn it. It was not dependent on you cleaning yourself up, on perfecting your theology, or on ceasing to repeat the same mistakes. He chose you in the very midst of your mess, in the depths of your mediocrity, in your most broken, unremarkable, and seemingly insignificant moment. And if that is the immeasurable cost he willingly paid, then who in all of creation are you to argue with his divine appraisal of your infinite worth? So tonight, before you surrender to sleep, I invite you to place your hand gently over your heart and declare these words with me, letting them resonate through your very being. I release every agreement I have ever made with lack, with limitation, and with the insidious lie that I am too far gone for God's very best. I release the identity that was so carelessly handed to me by the relentless narrative of my pain. I release the version of myself that was painstakingly constructed in survival mode, a temporary dwelling never intended to be permanent. I consciously receive the profound truth that I was chosen before I was even formed, called long before I could comprehend the calling, and divinely equipped for absolutely everything that lies ahead, including those aspects I cannot yet perceive. I declare that the season of delay is decisively over in my spirit, even as I steadfastly trust God's perfect timing in the natural realm. I declare that what was intended to shatter me has, by divine design, become the very instrument that qualifies me for my purpose. I am not behind. I am not forgotten. I am not an anomaly in God's faithfulness. I am a living, breathing testament to its boundless reality. And from this very moment forward, I walk, not waiting until I feel ready, not waiting for external permission, not waiting for the chilling grip of fear to finally recede, but I walk forward with unwavering confidence, because the God who initiated this sacred call upon my life is utterly faithful, and he never begins that which he does not intend to bring to magnificent completion. If this message has served to confirm a truth that was already powerfully burning within the sanctuary of your spirit, I implore you, do not let this be the fleeting moment where you acknowledged its presence and then simply moved on. Instead, commit to leaving a word in the comments section below, even if it is simply the powerful affirmation, I receive it. Allow this declaration to solidify, to land somewhere tangible outside of yourself. And more importantly, share this transformative message with another soul who you know desperately needs to hear these truths. Because God did not ignite this stirring within you tonight solely for your individual benefit. He operates with an eternal principle of multiplication in mind.